Hello, Podsmashers of the Internet, and welcome to another episode of Termite's Buzz, a weekly video game podcast running through the trophies and video games that Termite, myself, your host, is playing, some news that happened this week in the video game industry, and finishing off with a little bit of retro talk discussion about some retro video games and things that I love from ancient history, and by ancient I mean like 10 years ago. So, as you can probably tell by my voice, I am better. Last week, I had that awful cough and cold, fever, flu thing, whatever the crap was going on. Did not sound good, and it was very difficult for me to talk. This week, I've recovered. I'm better. Everything is fine. It is springtime. The weather is wonderful, and more on that later. I hope to find you well. I am one of two hosts of Bit Podsmash, which was a weekly video game podcast that was going live over at 80bitpodsmash.com. That's where you can find this podcast, actually. I'm one of two hosts, Termite, and with our little hiatus that we're doing, we're just taking some time off to reassess and reevaluate, recoup, to approach a Season 2 to come later this year. And in lieu of a weekly 80-Bit Podsmash episode, you are here with me on Termite's Buzz with Termite. So, you can find links to all of our podcast audio feeds over at 80bitpodsmash.com. That's Spotify, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts. And if you want to give some feedback, those are words. If you would like to provide feedback, interact with people in our community, give us your thoughts, comments, questions, concerns, and ideas, you can go over to the same website, 80bitpodsmash.com, and find links to all of our social media outlets: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Reddit, TikTok, as well as Discord. And you can interact with me and the communities there. Without further ado, let's jump on in. So what has Termite been playing? What am I up to this week? Well, I've continued my drudgery through Hogwarts Legacy. With me being sick, I've been unable to play, or at least unable to have the energy to play, any PSVR 2, because I'm still trying to streamline my VR 2 stuff to finish Horizon before buying anything else. And Horizon, for me, I think is the best experience standing up. So I've just kind of sidelined VR 2 till I got better, and I'd like to get the Platinum in Horizon Call of the Mountain, but I'm working my way through it. I was sick. I haven't played it at all this week. So I'm still working through Hogwarts, and it's not fun. It's a slog. I'm just getting through it. It's like, the story's good. I don't hate it. It's the only reason why I have any motivation to keep playing at all, is to figure out the mystery that's going on with Ragnarok, I think his name is. Ragnar? I don't even know. I'm saying all kind of weird names. But he's the goblin who is working with an evil wizard, and they're doing stuff. And I want to know what's going on. And so the mystery and the intrigue that's there is definitely like nostalgic enough to kind of feel like I'm reading Harry Potter again from my childhood. But the game is just, it's like samey all the time. I don't feel like it's like new and refreshing. I do have the game set on the easiest difficulty, so combat isn't like super challenging. And it's fun to mix up the spells and do stuff. Like, none of this is bad. It's just boring. And so I want to play other things, and I'm trying not to buy into any other stuff. I spent money on this game, so I need to get its value out of it. And it is an attainable platinum. It's just a lot of collectibles that I'll end up getting into later. And from what I've read, it's just finish the story, unlock all the spells. The spells enable you to unlock rooms and like get into the rest of that game. Like, you have to wait until you have them unlocked in the story to even try to get all the collectibles. So that's what I'm doing, just getting through the story. And then I'll circle back around and do the collectible grind, which I hear is pretty rough. So that's my PlayStation side. The Diablo 4 open beta was this weekend, and I had 2 nights in a row to actually play with friends of the show, James and T-Bone. So that's been super fun. And Penguin even jumped in on night number 2, and some other friends from our Discord was there, and so that was pretty sweet. Diablo 4. So what do I think about it? I can give my quick thoughts on it. I absolutely love it as far as a Diablo feel. It feels more like what I remember Diablo 2 feeling like when I first played it. It's a lot slower than 3, so Diablo 4 is slower paced than 3. It's much darker, and it seems to have much deeper systems as far as character builds and abilities and the gear and all the things you can do. There's so many customization options for character builds. It's insane. Way more depth than Diablo 3. And it's a little overwhelming, but it's the beta. None of this progress carries over to the real game. The story seems extremely interesting, like much, much better than 3 was. And I started to really care about the story when I first picked up the open beta, but then James made a good point about like none of this stuff carries over. We'll we'll just dive into the story when the game comes out and use this little beta as a chance to get a feel for the gameplay and some of the character builds and how gear and equipments and abilities and skills work. Test out the PlayStation, PC crossplay, test out how cross saves work, and that's my words, not James's, but and move on from there. So the game graphically is a major upgrade over Diablo 3. The environments and the lighting all are just breathtakingly gorgeous, absolutely beautiful. It runs at 60 frames per second. I played only on PlayStation 5. I have it installing on my PC as I'm recording this podcast right now, and I'm going to jump in on it and try it out to see what the differences are like. Maybe I can speak more on that later. But for now, I've only ever experienced the PS5 version. Buttery smooth 60 frames per second, even when the screen is filled with 4 full players doing all their abilities and enemies all over the place with all kind of alpha effects and like area of effect stuff dropped all over the ground and lightning rings, the lightning rays that spin in circles, those are back. So really enjoying my time with Diablo 4 and really excited for it to come out on June 6th. I just don't know a whole lot about the story other than like the preface, the intro, because that was when I started to care about the story and then realized I should not be spending this much time on dialogue when there's a very limited time for beta and it's time to just see how I feel about the game before moving on. So, Diablo 4, it's good stuff. Really excited about June 6th. But with that, I'm going to go into the state of my trophies for the year because Diablo 4's being so good. And the PAX East has been happening this past week. And I'm probably going to report on the PAX East news next week because the news that I have lined up for this week doesn't include a lot of PAX stuff. And I haven't followed PAX this week, and I don't really know what was going on. But there was a lot of Final Fantasy 16 footage shown at a panel in PAX. And Final Fantasy 16 looks phenomenal. Like, I want to play it so badly right now. It's exactly what I want to sink my teeth into. It's what I'm in the mood for right now that I hope by the time June comes out, I'm still going to be into it. So, trophies. The reason why I bring that up about Final Fantasy 16 and Diablo 4 is they both come out in June, right on the heels of Tears of the Kingdom, which comes out May 12th. So, I'm going to have Zelda, Diablo 4, and Final Fantasy 16. Final Fantasy 16 is confirmed to have like an 80-hour platinum. And Diablo 4 is probably going to have an impossible platinum because I'm not doing hardcore mode. That's a waste of my time. I do not want to lose everything by dying. And then there's Zelda, which has no trophies. Now, if you all remember, friends of me, longtime followers of Termite know, my goal was to get 2 platinum trophies per month to get 24 platinum trophies a year. And I've done this now for 2 years in a row. So this is my 3rd year doing it. And where I am now, I'm actually behind because I only have 1, 2, 3, 4 trophies, platinum trophies so far this year. And it's March. I should have 6 by the end of the month. So I'm 2 platinum trophies behind already. And I hadn't even gotten into anything coming out in May and June. So I've got a couple of shorter titles planned to try and increase the trophy rate. I want to do What Remains of Edith Finch. The PS5 version of that has come out, and that's like a 5-hour platinum, so I'm going to knock that out, I hope. And then there is a PlayStation VR title I would like to play that I'd like to get to. PSVR 2 title. What was it called? About blinking? It's about blinking. It's not a horror game. Oh, I cannot believe I don't remember the name of this game. Before Your Eyes. That's the one. Apparently the Before Your Eyes trophy is attainable. Let me look at the trophy guide real quick. Or at least see if there is one. There's collectibles. I heard it was like a pretty short platinum. So if I get What Remains of Edith Finch, Before Your Eyes, and then there was Toemo PS5, I think is what it's called. No. I don't remember it either. It was a PlayStation Plus title earlier this year because of the T. That's apparently a really fast platinum too, but good. Like, I like to get good. If I'm going to go down the road of like getting shorter platinums, they have to be good games. And I have What Remains of Edith Finch already on PlayStation 4. I know it's good, so now I'll just do the PS5 version to get that. So that's 3 short platinums I can possibly knock out between now and May before Zelda comes out. And that will put me at 7 platinum trophies for the year. In April, when I should have 8. So I'll still be 1 behind. I don't know what else to do. Like, I might have to let go of my trophy rate to actually enjoy Tears of the Kingdom, which, of course, like, nothing else matters more than a new Zelda. So Platinum Trophies be darned, PlayStation be darned, I don't care. Zelda is Zelda, and it's like the best. It's my favorite, absolute favorite franchise in gaming, period, hands down, and I will move heaven and earth in my gaming world to make sure I make time for Zelda. Like, that's going to take over everything. That's fine. I'm okay with that. What I was hoping was that those small trophies I just mentioned, the smaller Platinums, would have padded my year so that I would approach May with more than 10 trophies, Platinum trophies, but it's not going to be the case now because Hogwarts is taking longer than I thought, Theater Rhythm took longer than I thought, Call of the Mountain's taking longer than I thought, that's the VR one, and I need to get these done, and I'm also working on the Persona 5 Royal Platinum, which I also thought I would have time for because I thought those games I just mentioned would all be fast. Like, I thought I would actually be done with most of that stuff by now, and then I would just be doing Persona 5 again to knock out, I don't know, Platinum number 6 or 7, but it's not coming together. I don't know what's going on. I feel completely unmotivated to play Hogwarts, and the other, like, VR is hit or miss. My VR time is so limited because no one else can be around in the house to play. I have a 3-year-old. He can't be anywhere near that because of the cord, and he's just crazy and bombastic and unpredictable, and he's a toddler. That's what toddlers do. So that's the state of my trophies for the year. I might just have to the trophy rate's just going to have to go down this year, maybe. I'm super excited about getting my PlayStation 3 back, and I'm motivated to play some PlayStation 3 games when I do get it back. More on that also later in my retro talk, so that I'm not going to get any platinum trophies with PlayStation 3 because that era of trophy hunting was awful, and those trophies mostly have things like multiplayer the games. Those games mostly have the platinum trophies tied to PlayStation 3 games, the majority of those titles have multiplayer trophies, and the servers are not as active, and so it's a much longer grind to get multiplayer stuff, and I don't want to do that. I'm not trying to play PlayStation 3 games online. It's not it's not current. It's not modern. People aren't there. It's not active. I want to play the Xbox 360 generation of games on my PlayStation 3 and go back to games I haven't played yet, such as like Dragon Age, Dead Space, Skate, Final Fantasy 13's sequels, and more. Like, there's so many games. Resistance, I haven't played any of them. All 3 of them, I have them, and I want to play them. Fallout 3, Fallout New Vegas. I want to finish Skyrim. Those are all PlayStation 3 era stuff I'd like to get back into, and those will help my, like, general trophy count, but none of that is going to help my platinum count. So, with PlayStation 3 retro stuff coming, with Zelda, with Diablo 4, with Final Fantasy 16, Baldur's Gate 3 is coming to PS5. I'm willing to let that one go for the 3 that I just mentioned that are way more important to me. So, Final Fantasy is my second favorite franchise, so really it needs to be Zelda and Final Fantasy that take precedent. And Diablo, of course, is important to my gaming history and life, but wow, it's just a lot. It's a lot going on this year. So 2023 is going to be insane. The Game of the Year discussion at the end of the year is going to be nuts, but that is the state of my mind when it comes to trophies. It's all just too much. It's all too much fun, right? First world problems, good things to complain about, lots of awesome games and experiences to be had by all. And it seems like everyone is yelling at me to not worry about this whole platinum thing. All of my friends and supporters and family are just like, forget the platinums, Termite. Don't worry about them. They're not, it doesn't matter. But to me, it does. That's my motivation. That's what I love doing. I love the meta trophy chasing. It's great. So we'll see. It's my own internal struggle. We'll see where I land. Ultimately, gaming is gaming, right? I want to play the games I love. I want to play the games I enjoy. I have gone through many, many iterations of, I don't want to play this game anymore, but I need to get this platinum so I can play the games I want to play. And then I get to the games I want to play. And then it's wonderful and awesome, and I have a good time. And then I move back and forth. So it's an ebb and flow. It's an oscillation, if you will. And that is that. So what's been going on in the news this week outside of PAX East, which I'm not reporting on now, and I will hopefully have a collection of things to talk about next week regarding PAX East. It's in Boston, happening now. And in fact, I think it's over. Like, it ended today, so theoretically there should be enough stuff for me to talk about from PAX, but there's other news that I want to cover as well, and maybe some of it was at PAX and maybe some of it wasn't. We'll see. We'll get there. Right now, the first thing I'm going to kick it off with is a Polygon article written by Julia Lee and the Polygon staff and Cameron Faulkner. Polygon's favorite 3DS games to grab before the eShop closes. And the reason why I grabbed this article is because the news isn't really super new. The eShop is closing on the Wii U and the 3DS on March 27th. That's tomorrow. Or today, the day this podcast drops. And if you haven't gotten any games yet, you might have today to do it, and that's it. I just want to highlight some of the things that people are saying you should get on the eShop before it closes. I personally purchased a Rhythm Heaven game that I'd never played any Rhythm Heaven game before, but there's a 3DS digital exclusive that will literally be unattainable after Monday. It's gone forever. Like, you will not, if you don't have it already, you will not be able to get it, or you'd have to buy a 3DS that has it installed already. But other than that, you can't acquire it anymore. So I bought it, dabbled with it. It was fun, and I want to play more of it. But I don't play my 3DS a whole lot anymore because it's kind of old. But I have it for posterity, I guess. And then on the Wii U, there's a Dr. Luigi game that was suggested as a digital-only Wii U title. So I picked it up, and I haven't played it yet. And I also bought and downloaded Pokemon Yellow Virtual Console on the 3DS because it can link to Pokemon Home, and I already have like Pokemon Bank and all that stuff. So, and Pokemon Home integration is coming to Scarlet and Violet, so it is a connection to a modern Pokemon that I wanted to make sure I had because I have Red version already, but I didn't want to get Blue and Yellow, so I just got Red and Yellow because those are my favorite. And then I have Pokemon Crystal, which covers the Gold and Silver, and that's like the extent of my Pokemon Virtual Console on the 3DS. But anyway, so Polygon here suggests getting Animal Crossing New Leaf. Now, it's a great suggestion because Animal Crossing New Leaf is wonderful, but you can buy it physically. So it's kind of like you don't really need to buy it on the eShop. Attack of the Friday Monsters. So in 2013, Attack of the Friday Monsters is a short. It was too short, too thin on gameplay, and too boring. He was wrong. I don't know. Level 5 made this, and okay, I don't know much about this game, but Attack of the Friday Monsters apparently is good. When he was little, he thought it was short and boring. Fire Emblem Awakening, you can buy that physically. Legend of Zelda: Link Between Worlds. Of course, Ocarina of Time 3D and Majora's Mask 3D are great games. Mario and Luigi Dream Team. Samus Returns, Metroid Samus Returns is awesome. Pokemon Picross, Pokemon X and Y, Professor Layton and the Miracle Mask, Rhythm Heaven Mega Mix, that's the one I bought. That's a digital-only game for the 3DS. Tomodachi Life, and that's where the article ends. So there's just a list of 3DS titles you can get that might be worth your while if you are looking for some last-minute digital-only 3DS titles. Now, a lot of those are physical, yes, but the physical versions are expensive, so the cheapest way you can get them otherwise would be to get them digitally off the eShop before it closes. So just know that. So there it is. That's eShop's closing. Next up, Sonic Origins Plus was announced, so that's pretty sweet. I'm reading an article on GameSpot.com by George Yang. Sonic Origins Plus, an upgraded version of Sonic Origins, will launch on June 23rd, as if there's not enough coming out in June already. Sonic Origins Plus will feature 16 classic Sonic titles, such as Sonic the Hedgehog 1, 2, 3, and Knuckles, and Sonic CD. 12 Sonic games from the Game Gear are also emulated and can be played in the Collection Museum function. Additionally, Amy is now a playable character in Sonic the Hedgehog 1, 2, 3, and CD. Knuckles is also playable in Sonic the Hedgehog CD. For those who already own the original Sonic Origins game, an expansion pass will be available for $10, which will upgrade it to the Plus version and include all previously released Sonic Origins DLC. Sonic Origins Plus was rated in Korea last month. It was hinted at. There's Origins review in the link if you want, but there you go. So we're getting some more content. And mostly what's different here from the original collection, if my reading of the article didn't clarify this already, are the addition of the Game Gear titles and then Amy as a playable character. So it's $10 worth, a bunch of Game Gear titles, and Amy, sure. For me, absolutely. I'm going to look into this. I can't wait. That's going to be cool. Coming out in June. Next up is an awesome piece of news that I'm extremely excited to talk about. This is an article from Polygon written by Michael McWhirter. The beloved Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle graphic novel, The Last Ronin, is becoming a video game. Yes! Oh, this is good. Oh, I was so excited when this was announced. A new, very different style of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game is currently in development, an adaptation of The Last Ronin, the 2020 graphic novel that told a grim, futuristic story about the Turtles. So, side note real quick, The Last Ronin is a collaboration between the original writers of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle comics, and that is Eastman and Lane, I believe. I don't remember their name. I should know this. I'm a fake fan. The original writers of the original Ninja Turtles comics had a famous fallout, and they haven't worked together in years. Well, they came together, and they wrote a story and a new original story in the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle universe. What happened was like it's post-apocalyptic. So there's one turtle left. 3 of them died. I'm not going to spoil which turtle is the last one, but Last Ronin picks up right where like post all of that trauma had happened years in the future and started a new storyline. And now there are a series of the Last Ronin comics coming out that fill the gap from the end of the latest Turtles comic and the beginning of Last Ronin that I'm currently working through. Those are called the Lost Years, and that's been awesome. But an absolutely fantastic set of books. There's 5 of them. I think you can get them all in like a collection now, like one hardback, all back. Just buy one book, and you'll have the whole Last Ronin series, the whole graphic novel. And it's very dark. It's very adult. It's fantastic. It's awesome. So this... it's going to be cool. Like the comic, now I'm back to the article, the Last Ronin video game adaptation will be a darker, more mature take on the typically colorful Ninja Turtles, according to Doug Rosen, Senior Vice President for Games and Emerging Media at Paramount Global, the rights holders for the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. In an interview with Polygon last week, Rosen likened an upcoming third-person action role-playing game to Sony's recent God of War titles and said it will be an authentic to the story of the Last Ronin arc, which is set in a future where only one of the Turtles has survived. Everything about that sentence I just read is amazing. A third-person action RPG game liking to God of War. Yes. Please, let's go. Single player, third person, gorgeous looking, crazy, combat deep. Oh, I can't wait. I'm so excited. While other TMNT games, like last year's Shredder's Revenge, are typically about playing as all 4 turtles, The Last Ronin will be primarily a single player game, though Rosen posited that other characters could be playable in flashback sequences similar to how the comic series plays out. The primary action is said to center on the only surviving turtle. The identity of that lone remaining Ninja Turtle was something of a mystery when the Last Ronin comic series was announced. The arc story was built around a Ninja Turtle who wore a black mask and fought using all 4 turtles' signature weapons. It wasn't until the final pages of the first issue where that identity was revealed. The remaining turtles, Master Splinter, have all been exterminated by the Foot Clan, leading this one last turtle to seek justice for their deaths in a battle-ravaged New York City. So, yeah, it's going to be awesome, but years out, and there's not even an announced studio that's making it yet, so I don't understand why they're not releasing that kind of information, but years away. So probably 2025, 2026, who knows? It's going to be a long time. Depending on what engine they're using and the development cycle, how big the studio is, and the budget, and all those things, it could be as early as 2 years from now, if this game has already been in talks story-wise, for a couple of years. It takes like 5 to 6 years to make a AAA budget game. So depending on where it falls on that spectrum, it could be between now and 2028, which is when they were talking about the PlayStation 6 being announced. So who knows? It's going to be a very long time. Either way, I'm excited, but I'm going to put all of that excitement away for a very long time, like a time capsule in my soul. So there that is. So also that happened this week was a State of Unreal Engine. And so that was a presentation given by Epic about what's going on with Unreal Engine 5 and some new things coming along. And I know there was like some new stuff unveiled for Fortnite and like a game creation tool like for Fortnite or something. I didn't follow this very closely. I just saw some headlines and kind of paid cursory attention to what was going on. And then there was a whole Senua's Sacrifice 2, Hellblade Senua's Sacrifice was the first game. So Hellblade 2, whatever the new one's called, of like a real-time facial animation rendering system that was like groundbreaking and revolutionary and new for Unreal Engine 5. While all that was happening, Valve decided out of nowhere to reveal Counter-Strike 2. So that's what I'm going to report on, because Counter-Strike 2 is way more exciting to me than Unreal 5, which we've already heard about forever. And there wasn't any big news coming out of the Unreal 5 engine stuff that I was aware of. Like no new big games announced that are using it or like any groundbreaking stuff. It was just kind of an update on what's going on with it. So, Counter-Strike 2 revealed. This is an IGN article written by Alex Stedman. The game was suddenly announced today, and that day was on March 22nd. Valve has suddenly confirmed Counter-Strike 2, and it's arriving sooner than you might think. An exact release date has yet to be announced, but it's been given a summer 2023 release window and will run on Source Engine 2. It will be a free upgrade, Counter-Strike Go, and it's also available in limited testing to some Counter-Strike Go players starting today. So I guess people are playing it now. And you can there's details on how to become part of that limited test. Per Counter-Strike 2 website that popped up today, it's, quote, the largest technical leap forward in Counter-Strike's history, ensuring new features and updates for years to come. In several videos released today, Valve gave a closer glimpse at what Counter-Strike players can expect. Specifically, Valve spotlighted its upgraded and overhauled maps, game-changing smoke grenades, tick rate independent gameplay, and redesigned visual effects and audio. All of Counter-Strike 2's overhauled maps have been fully rebuilt from the ground up, leveraging all of the new Source 2 tools and rendering features, says Valve. The updated grenades, meanwhile, now have the ability to interact with other gameplay elements, will expand to fill spaces naturally, and will react to lighting. Why didn't they say smoke grenades? Because that's what they were talking about. The updated smoke grenades. They expand to fill spaces naturally and react to lighting, and you can, the video showcased, you can, shoot through the smoke in a smoke grenade, and that smoke will disappear. You can also use, a frag grenade next to a smoke grenade to clear that smoke out, to, push it with a concussion blast, which is kind of cool. It all looks really realistic and fun. Plus, regardless of tick rate, which was tick rate was every so many seconds, well, I guess it would be milliseconds, there would be an exchange from your client PC to the server, and then there would be net code that would marry the sequence of actions, and then a truth would be pushed out. And so sometimes it would lead to servers with higher tick rates would perform differently than servers with low tick rates. And if you had good bandwidth and good connection, you could use a higher tick rate. And when it comes down to the microseconds of pointing and clicking and shooting and where the projectiles are headed and such, there could be disputes about who killed who or who shot who, or the accuracy of your shot. Did you actually get a shot within the headshot hitbox, or did you not, et cetera, et cetera. And so it's been this topic of conversation specifically in Counter-Strike for a long time. So now it's this whole tick rate agnostic computing that's going on. So regardless of tick rate, your moving and shooting will be equally responsive, and your grenades will always land the same way in this announcement they made. So all of a player's Counter-Strike Go items will carry them into Counter-Strike 2. This marks Valve's first official confirmation of Counter-Strike 2's existence. Rumors had been starting to gain steam earlier this month. Puns intended, I'm sure, with notable journalist and Counter-Strike caster Richard Lewis saying that Valve was getting ready to announce the project. So I thought it was funny that during Epic's big day, talking about Unreal 5, that Gabe Newell's Valve decided to come out and say, hey, we're doing Counter-Strike 2, which is a pretty big deal. I'm excited about this. I haven't actually had a reason to play my gaming PC in a very long time, and Counter-Strike 2 is a reason to dust off my 1 or 2 year old PC. It's not even 2 years old. With its amazing 3070 Ti graphics card that's fully underutilized by me because I play PlayStation and console games. So I'm excited to actually utilize keep my PC and play something on my computer that I'm excited to get into. That'll come if it's late summer. I'm hoping it's past. I'll have most of my Diablo 4 stuff done. I hope to have done Final Fantasy 16, and I'm hoping to be done with Zelda. And something like Counter-Strike, being a multiplayer-only round-by-round type of game, it's just something that would exist in the background, and I could easily rotate into that for a few rounds every so often. I mean, I've been playing Splatoon 3 regularly now since it had come out, and I still play it, even if it's for a half hour, with a neighbor and our kids. And so we play Splatoon 3 all the time. It happens a lot, more often than not. There's probably 4 nights a week that I'm playing Splatoon 3. And so that's super fun. Counter-Strike 2 will fit that same kind of mold where I'll just play it on my PC occasionally here and there and just dabble, jump in and out. Won't invest a whole lot of time into it, but I love Counter-Strike. Counter-Strike and I go way back. This is a good segue into my retro talk. I wasn't going to actually talk about Counter-Strike, but here I am. So on a whim, I played Counter-Strike since 1.5 was out, back when they were doing the WON, the WAN servers. I had gotten a gaming PC with T-Bone around 2002. And I got into Counter-Strike, and then patch 1.6, 1.6 was Steam. So 1.5 was the last iteration of Counter-Strike before it moved on to 1.6, I think. Yeah, 1.6 was part of Steam. Steam Beta was when I jumped into that. So I was into Counter-Strike before Steam even existed, played like crazy. There's multiple summers where we were at LAN cafes were a thing, and I didn't, as I was getting into PC gaming, it was right before I got my gaming PC. I was playing Counter-Strike, and then I got the gaming PC, and then I played Counter-Strike like crazy. We had to use TeamSpeak and set up servers for voice chat, and getting into the same game together as a party was awful, and it took multiple attempts because there was no party system. The Steam didn't exist, so you couldn't team up with anyone and join games together and play on voice chat. That's all combined. It was just this whole diasporic mess. But it was great for LAN parties. We had a blast. We played so much, hundreds of hours of Counter-Strike. And then, of course, after 1.6 and Steam had launched, countless hours again spent night after night after night. And then Counter-Strike Source came out around Half-Life 2's release, and that was a whole new thing. And we played Counter-Strike Source, again, LAN parties and online together, many, 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 many nights, late into the night, the overnights, like just crazy. So much Counter-Strike in my life. I didn't play a lot of Counter-Strike Go. That was not a thing I got into. Maybe I'll dabble in it again with this announcement just to kind of get back into the hype and see what's about. And maybe even try to get into that early access. But I love Counter-Strike. I was super into it for a while. So really excited to see this game come out, announced and coming out soon. I'll be able to play it. It seems like I already own Counter-Strike Go. I don't remember buying it, but it's in my library. So I think it's free to play. And it's a free upgrade from there. So I don't know how much it costs. I don't know I have no clue what the investment will be like. But right now, we are in the thick of spring, right? Spring, just the spring equinox, which I don't remember the name of, and I should. The fall one is the autumnal equinox, but the equinox just happened. That was on the 21st, and now we are headed barreling into summertime, but the weather has now increased back into its lovely 60s. It's wonderful outside. It's no humidity at all. And I just have a lot of memories of playing video games in spring, and specifically one that never, I guess it was a core memory because it's never gone away, is Final Fantasy XIII's release on the 360. It was it was the year after I got married. So I got married in August of 2009, and I believe Final Fantasy XIII came out in the spring of 2010. So I was living in an apartment, free of parental, this is my first year outside of the house. I moved away and kind of my own adult. I got my own Xbox, and I'm in my own house. And so I remember having the slider screen open in my one bedroom apartment, playing Final Fantasy XIII on the 360 with the window open and just the warmth and the weather. It's just a really cool, good springtime memory of gaming. And while I don't really recreate that often, last year, I remember the same situation with Elden Ring and for Horizon Forbidden West, were both games I was playing around the springtime last year, and windows were open. It's nice weather, and I'm wondering, audience, what spring memories of games do you have? I actually have another one, going way back to the PlayStation 2 era. So this could have been 2001 or 2002 springtime, actually 2002 or 2003, around spring. We got T-Bone and I got Zone of the Enders 1, because it came with a demo disc for Metal Gear Solid 2, but Zone of the Enders came out around springtime, around Easter, and I also have fond memories of opening the window and playing Zone of the Enders, which was a fantastic, robot combat, flying, crazy Japanese mech RPG type game, and it's fantastic. Really short experience, but really good game. And I also have memories of playing Kingdom Hearts 2 in March of 2006-ish. I remember good springtime memories of when Kingdom Hearts 2 had come out on the PlayStation 2. So it's weird that each season, you talk about winter and snow games and winter games and the Christmas holiday and getting games for Christmas and playing them all winter and it being cold outside, and you have memories of certain games for that weather style. And now I have the same thing for spring, and then I'll have the same for summer and fall. It's each season has its own gaming memories in and of itself over the 30 plus years of gaming experiences that I have. So those are some of my springtime and gaming memories. What are yours? I would love to know. Is this something that do people do this whole attaching season feels to video games? Is that what y'all do? Is that even, or am I just crazy? Maybe I'm just weird and I have weird memory associations to weather in video games. I don't know, but that's that. So I also, in the next retro situation, is my PlayStation 3, my original launch model, the CECH A01, the Chech A01 or A01, whatever you want to call it, has still been living in California for a while over there with Computer Booter, and he's been working on it. I've been posting updates to social medias, that is Facebook and Twitter, with links to which YouTube videos. So he fixes everything live on YouTube and Twitch, but the videos exist, after he's done being live. So I've posted, I did copy and paste. I've posted the links to all of the Facebook videos with timestamps to when my specific PlayStation has been worked on, and we've gone through a lot. So where are we at now? Let's look at it. Let's see what work has been done. So it's the initial tear down has happened, and assessment with Syscon and codes read. I don't have my notebook. I have a notebook with all the things, and I guess I'll do a full rundown when it's all done. But that was like the initial thing. Tears it all down, checks it, runs syscon codes. Can this even work? And then the next step was removing the 40 nanometer RSX off of the Slim. I had a PlayStation 3 Slim that I had purchased off eBay, shipped right to him to harvest the RSX graphics chip off of. So there's a video of him tearing that down and pulling that chip off and reballing it. So he has to reball that 40 nanometer with fresh solder balls so that it can connect to my board. Also had to pull the 90 nanometer, the bad RSX, off of my board, and then the actual Frankenstein mod happening where the 40 nanometer goes onto my board. That's all there. So removing the 90 nanometer and removing the 40 nanometer, reballing it and putting the new one on, and then of course the test. And I want to talk about the test. So of course, I can catch some of this stuff while it's live. We have a 3-hour time gap difference because California's 3 hours behind us over here on the East Coast. And so when he was working on it is prime of when my children are around and we have dinner time. And so I'm managing my children and we have family dinner together every night around the kitchen table. So we're trying to do that. And then the community that we have on Thursday nights, so dinner wasn't like that at all. That was just the context for how I approach dinner usually. So the community I live in is called co-housing, and I'm not going to talk into depth about what that is. If you care, you can go look that up. But with that, we have what's called common meals, where everyone in the neighborhood comes together for a meal and someone volunteers to cook for everyone. And so every Thursday and every Sunday we have a common meal. So this happened to be a Thursday night, so I had common meal, and I have to take my children to a common house on the property where we have common spaces to go sit and eat and stuff. I have a 3-year-old and a 7-year-old. And it's a buffet-style line of food, so they need to be managed. You do not ever want to let your children just run up to a buffet line and run amok. So I have to manage them. Literally all of this is to say that I cannot be on my phone at all, or a catastrophe will happen, and I will inconvenience someone else, or I will contaminate the food. So, of course, Booter's working on my PlayStation 3 while I'm trying to manage Common Meal, but I didn't know it until after I got back from Common Meal. So we came home, and we were trying to get the kids settled, and we have another thing after that. Every other Thursday, we have a men's group, and all of the men of my community, we all get together, and we just kind of have like some time where we can share as much of or as little of ourselves as we want, things we're struggling with, things we're excited about, emotionally, spiritually, intellectually, physically, whatever topics we want to discuss. We're allowed to just be vulnerable with each other and like try to share into each other's lives, and encourage one another and build each other up and such. So it's a whole men's group thing. So between Common Meal and men's group, I jump in to see what Booter's doing on my PlayStation, and I see that it's done. The Frankie mod is done, and I'm excited. Like, oh, sweet. He's putting it kind of sort of easy on the trend of putting it back together to test. And I have to go off to men's group. So I'm sitting in men's group. It's outside at the fire pit, and everyone's sharing. And of course, we go around the room, and I have my turn coming up at some point. And I'm outside. It's dark. So I just have the phone open and muted on my lap, and I'm sort of just glancing down on it while we're all talking, and I'm not paying a whole lot of attention to my phone. But I can see that mine's being worked on. So it gets to the point where how Booter does it is he puts it back together like loosely enough to where the fan is connected to the processors, and you can turn it on, and you can hook up syscon to it, and because you have to write codes to the firmware. So to make the new chip work correctly, it requires a different type of checksum code values. And so I don't know the technical details of this stuff. So he had it all hooked up, and then you do a command called bring up, and it will boot the system, and it didn't work. And you could see the failure happen. Of course, there's no sound, so I don't hear what he's talking about or what's going on, and I am freaking out. I'm like, oh my gosh. There's an attempt fee, so you're already in, like you're committed to $200 up front, and that's his attempt fee, and it's fair. He's doing a lot of work, and it's not a guarantee that it's going to actually fix your PlayStation. So it's a $600 job total. At least that's what he charges for it. And up front is $200, and then if everything works and it passes the stress test and he ships it back to you, he invoices you for the other $400. So it's all you have to. So I've forked out shipping. I've bought another PlayStation 3 and sent it to him. So I'm like hundreds of dollars invested into this situation at the moment, and I'm seeing it fail. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what is happening? So I'm kind of freaking out. I can't type into chat, and I can't hear what he's saying, and he's doing things. So he pulls out a voltmeter, and he starts probing the board and like looking around. I don't know what he's doing. I don't know like what's going on. And I'm like finding it very, very difficult to pay attention to men's group as this is unfolding on my lap. And then it actually is my turn to speak. And because like we're a cool group of guys that all see each other every single day, like no one's like offended that I have this going on. And I'm able to just talk and realistically about what's going on. So I was like, well, emotionally, I'm kind of freaking out right now because this thing I care about deeply that I've sent across the country is failing in my lab. And they all kind of chuckled and laughed. And I was like, I understand. It's like not as important as like life, kids, and marriages, and all of the deeper and heavier emotional lifestyle things that we all have going on. But I just like, I can't, this sucks. And then by the time I was done speaking and the guy next to me had finished, I saw it boot up. So I was like, yes, it's alive, right when men's group ended. And I had to go back and like rewind and figure out what had happened, what was going on. And as I just mentioned earlier, you have to open up what's called a syscon. You solder some wires into an interface in the front of the board, and you plug it into your PC with a USB port and another circuit board. And like I said, if you're into console mods, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you're not into console mods, you're like me, you don't ever want to do this to a console on your own, just bear with me. It's a way to type commands into the firmware of PlayStation 3 and interact with its like software. So you have to do that whenever you graft a processor onto the motherboard, and there's a 65 nanometer and there's a 40 nanometer. So there's two different types of graphics chips that both work, and they require different codes. Well, apparently there's a variation of 40 nanometers. They're not all the same, and it required a different code to write to the firmware, and that's all it was. And it was luckily thanks to a guy in chat who I think also does console repairs, and his name is Josh. He's in chat as Josh something, and he had sent a tip to Booter during the live stream saying, you should change this code from, I think, an EC to an EB value. And Booter's like, fine, I'll try it, whatever. He tried it, and it worked. It booted right up, and everything was fine. And I was just like, oh my gosh. But I didn't really get to figure that out until it was already fixed. Like, I already knew it was fixed, so the freak out happened when I didn't. I'm so glad I was actually separated from chat, because I probably would have just confused more. It's funny how things work out. Like, what are the chances that this one person who knew the solution was watching and online the same night that I was not available to interact at all? And like, but it just goes in to see how like finicky and tricky and precise this entire operation is, and how extraordinarily complex fixing a console can be, electrical engineering, all the things that are involved. So shout out to Booter, fixed it, who did the thing. Shout out to Joshua, who provided the tip. And both Booter and myself went back and circled onto the Discord server and made sure like someone documented this. So that was cool for future people out there who are getting this kind of work done, know what's going on. So that happened. Afterward, of course, was a quick test to make sure it all booted up and worked. And he saw my profile on the PlayStation and navigated through the hard drive and saw installed games and such, and like it was fine. And then he sends it off because the capacitors are next. That's like the next step. There's capacitors that run between the cell processor. There are capacitors that run between the RSX chips, and so like they all need to be replaced. And so there's a tantalum is a type of metal capacitor. It's a custom job. They're called tantalizers. So RIP Felix, who made the documentary that pointed me to Booter, has like a board you can buy, and then Booter takes like the tantalum capacitors and mounts them to this board, and it becomes like a kind of a chip that gets soldered onto the PlayStation. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, I believe, per PlayStation 3. So the next video I have posted, I just posted it Sunday on the 26th. The installation of those capacitors, and then after that it gets ultrasonic cleaned, and then after it's ultrasonic cleaned, the capacitors have been installed. It gets fresh thermal paste and reassembled completely, and then stress test for 3 days. So the next video to come will hopefully be today, Monday. We'll see. We'll have that final put together reassembly, and then you don't get to watch. He doesn't stream the stress tests. That's fine, but he does stress test it for 3 or 4 days. You bring it up for an hour and you run a game that's heavy on it. I think they use The Last of Us as a game that will stress the RSX. You stress it for an hour, you let it cool for an hour, you stress it for an hour, and that allows like all of the defects to manifest themselves if there are any. If there's anything wrong at all with the RSX or the cell or the capacitors or all the things, That'll make it known. So after that, he ships it back to me, and when I get it, I've got some plans for y'all. I want to do an unboxing on Twitch, so I don't think I'm gonna announce or plan ahead. So it's just I'll plan ahead as much as I can. If I know the day that it's coming, that's one thing, but I don't know what time it's gonna come in. So I think the day it arrives, I want to do an unboxing, so I'll probably just do it live. So this is your call. You've been warned. Go to twitch.tv/80bitpodsmash and or subscribe to the channel. It doesn't cost anything because we don't monetize, so you just follow us, right? And I will try to tweet or let you know when I have a window of time with which I'll go live. So try to make yourself available. And then when I do go live, you'll be notified on your phone because you followed me. So do that. And at some point, I will go live and I will unbox it. This video will be recorded on Twitch, and I will publish it to YouTube for VOD consumption later, video on demand. So you won't miss it at all if you don't catch it live. But if you want to be live and you want to be in chat and ask questions, you can. So I'm going to do a live unboxing. I'm going to hook it all up. I have a capture card. I've got the HDMI splitter that you need for PlayStation 3s. I'm going to get all that going, and I'm going to play some games on it. I'm going to try to cycle through some PS2, PS3 games and have a good time and chat. You guys can all ask questions about the repair, and then I'll post all that to YouTube and send links out to all of that content. So be excited. Get ready for some PlayStation 3 launch excitement. I know I'm chomping at the bit for this thing. I care deeply about the whole console and the story behind its launch and the infamous console wars that happened afterward. And there is all kinds of PlayStation 3 stuff coming that I'm very excited to talk about. I'm getting a book in June. I kickstarted, backed it. So I'm going to digest the book and talk about it here on the podcast in the retro section. So lots of PlayStation 3 stuff to talk about. Can't wait. I'm excited. Go check out Computer Booter's site. It's youtube.com/computerbooter. I mean, the links are all over my social media. So if you can't go directly to him, go to my Twitter, 80bitpodsmash.com, go to Twitter or Facebook and find a link in one of the posts that's there. You can watch all of this unfold in story chunks. He works on it for hours. This stuff is extremely tedious and takes hours and hours and hours of repair work. It's expensive, meaning rightfully so, and go check it out if you care. And if not, you can fast forward through stuff, skip around, and do what you got to do. Thank you for listening once again. It's been a pleasure to chat with the internet once again this week regarding some trophies, some video game news, and my retro obsession. I love games. I love video games. I am Termite, and I hope to see you next week.